Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. If you have been here for a while, you know that I've been thrifting a ton of VHS over the last, couple of years, I guess. And I did share a VHS collection, maybe like 7 or 8 months ago. I pretty much outgrew that right away, so I've been working on a new setup and it's finally done. So I thought I would share. So kind of has a little bit of a video store vibe to it now. It kind of happened accidentally. I wanted to, just to maximize space, I wanted to extend bookshelves from the wall so I could use both sides of them. And then that way I'd have, make the most of the space. It's just a little kind of corner of our basement, but it ended up working out great. I think it looks cool and it just makes me really happy. So on the very back wall is where I have all of my classic films, and then we have this closet here, and I just printed out some movie posters and then stuck them up on there. I don't have room like on the walls for actual movie posters, but these are all of my classic films, which makes me so happy. If you're new, that is my favorite kind of film, so the fact that I have this many now just makes me so happy. So up above that, we just have this shelf that I have this little miniature black and white TV on with a VCR. I just thought that would look cool to have that in the corner up there. Bonus points if you know what this movie is. But I think we got this TV for free, so we just had it here at the house, so I thought it would look cool up there. And then I have this I Dream of Jeannie salt and pepper shakers that I got a while ago that is meant to look like an old TV. I have this book from the 40s, this film review book, and then this encyclopedia of movie stars. So up on top of the shelf, I just have a bunch of Doris Day films. I've been kind of watching them all. I got a big lot of them not too long ago. And then I like to group my movies together by studio, and so the first two, like the top two shelves, are all MGM. MGM is by far my favorite studio. I think they made the best classic films. So plus I just think it looks nice when they're all kind of lined up together. It gets a little messy after that, but then we go into Fox films, and then I just went down with the Fox movies. They all look very different, so they're not going to look as uniform as the MGM do at the top there. But I just went down 2 sections with that, and then at the very bottom is just a lot of miscellaneous random things, as you can see. So movies that they don't really have a studio, a lot of random TV things, so like that. And then we go into MCA here. There's a lot of sections with just kind of random miscellaneous, kind of like this one. And then we've got some WB, which look a little more uniform than the Fox, and then over here it's a little miscellaneous as well. We've got some MCA, little WB overflow. This one's a little miscellaneous as well. We've got a little MGM overflow. As you can see, I'm already out of space on this shelf, but then we've got some Paramount, but the majority of what I have is definitely the MGM. Like I said, they're my favorite. And then on top of the closet, I just have some more modern TV shows up there. We usually just thrift these, so we don't have full sets of everything, but so then down the first aisle, if you will, we don't actually come in this one very often because we just keep Disney movies in it, which is why I put up some Disney things on the wall. And then I put my little Disney record player in the corner there also with all of my Disney records. I do have a video showing all that if you wanted a better look at it, but just some Disney things that I already had. I thought, oh, this is perfect. And then I do have some old Disney books, and then some old vacation VHS up there. But then here I just have some live action, more older ones from the 50s and 60s, and then it kind of leads into more 90s Cool Runnings. I've got some Mighty Ducks, so like more 90s live actions. And then we just go into these like animated ones that are old, like from way back in the day. So I just have a bunch of those, and then a few live actions that are not in the clamshells. But then we just go into the like animated classics in the clamshells. I think I have all of them up until like the year 2000. I might be missing like 2 or 3, but for the most part I have all of them, and like the sequels to those ones. And then I do just have some like newer live actions of the animated ones, I guess, and some like old like 90s like cartoons. But then here's a shot of my little record player. I just think it looks cute back there. And then with the Disney stuff on the wall, it's a vibe. So then on the other bookshelf is where I just keep more classic TV shows, like I guess pre-2000s maybe. Like there's some 90s stuff there too, but it's a lot of classic TV shows like from the 50s and 60s, and then kind of goes into the 90s. I did post a video sharing my classic like TV show collection as well, which it hasn't really changed that much if you want like a better look at it. I'm just kind of scanning over it kind of quick. It's also kind of dark back in this corner, so I apologize for that. I do have some room to grow on this shelf though, but I also do have a few VHS that are like TV show related, like this All in the Family anniversary special, and then I think I've got the pilot episode here of Little House on the Prairie. I actually don't have any Little House on the Prairie like DVDs or anything. I think there's like a few other, like the Chips one, and I forget. Oh, it's Beverly Hillbillies. And then at the bottom here, we have the entire series of Everybody Loves Raymond that's still sealed, that somebody was getting rid of for $20, I think. John said he got it for, and I think it was only, I think that was like 9 seasons, so I'm not the biggest fan of that. But then I do have some other TV shows, like if you're an 80s kid like me, you'd recognize Thundercats. I loved that when I was a kid, so when we saw that, we had to get it. At the very top, I just have this Ally McBeal set because it's very like awkward and bulky, so it just worked out that I could just sit it up there. And then I just put this little M&M like popcorn bucket up there for decoration that I found thrifting a little while ago. So then moving on to the next aisle, we have the comedy section, which I have very little room to grow in this section. I guess I can stack movies on top, but I'm definitely running out of room in this section, that's for sure. I did just put some classic 80s movies on the very top there from various genres, but we've got the entire one side of this bookshelf, except for the bottom shelf that is just all comedies. So up here, like I said, I just put just a lot of, I guess they wouldn't be all from the same genre, but just some classic 80s. I guess technically there's a few 70s up there, but they all just seem to fit together, so I just put them up there. I will say that organizing all of the movies by genre definitely made a really big difference, because I think I had them set up differently before in my last collection video, because typically when you're wanting to watch a movie, you probably are wanting to watch like a certain genre, so if you can just go to a section and look at that, it's just better, I guess. It's very weird because I didn't really realize how much like physically looking at movies and like picking them up and reading the descriptions, how it would feel so different than like what we do today where everything is streaming. So it definitely actually did give me that feeling of going into a video store. So I think that's really cool because it had been such a long time that I just kind of forgot how it felt. And I don't know why it's so different, like actually physically holding a movie and reading the description versus looking at a photo on your screen and reading a description, but it definitely feels a lot different. So then the last section of comedy here is what I consider like goofy comedies. So that's why they're down here, because they're probably not movies I would reach for very frequently, if at all. But a lot of like goofy things, and like a lot of like SNL type spin-off movies, I guess. But then down from that on the bottom shelf is like sport related movies, which I don't think I've seen any of. But it turns out we had quite a few that are similar. And then a little small section that's sort of, I guess, like more teen movies, just down at the very bottom. And then on the very bottom of the next bookshelf, we've just got some like random cartoons, like this Turtles VHS. When John was a kid, he loved the Turtles like TV show. And then we also have this Transformers one, which I'm not sure if this is like a movie or just like an episode of the cartoon. But then we've also have this section of like martial art type films, which John likes. I don't think I've seen any of those either. But then at the very top of that next section, we've got romance. We don't have a lot of romance movies at all. I just put those 3 up there on the top, and then we just have the one shelf full of them. Definitely, I guess, not really huge on romance, except, I mean, I guess you could say classic films are, a lot of them are romance films. But then we have rom-coms after that. So we've got quite a few more rom-coms than romance movies. This movie, it's the only VHS that I have that is like blue. I thought it was weird. I'd never seen one prior to that, and I haven't seen any since, but so I just thought I would show you that. I also just recently got one that's yellow. And those are the only 2 I think that are like not black or gray. So I don't think I mentioned already, but I do in total have just under 1,300 VHS and DVD, but I would say probably 70 or more % is VHS. It's not that many DVDs. I keep a list in an Excel sheet, so that's how I know. I did think it was like 1,263 or something was the last one that I entered in. So then I just have a few records there on the wall. And then up top in this section, I just have like superhero movies. I haven't seen any of them, but there's a few. And then this section is like what I've just called Halloween, just because we would watch these movies during Halloween season, not because they're like actual horror movies or anything. We're not really a fan of that genre, so we don't really have anything aside from movies like Scream, which I don't know if I would really consider that a horror film. Maybe some people do. I feel like it's more like a comedy, but I do like some horror films, like more old school ones from like the 70s and 80s. My favorite is actually My Bloody Valentine, and it was filmed in like this really, really tiny town, and that's where I grew up, so it's a weird kind of connection, but I feel like that's the one I can like rewatch the most, and not I just find horror films really cheesy, I guess. So then right below the Halloween section, we have the Christmas section, which is like 3 sections deep there. I have a lot of Christmas movies and Christmas cartoon specials. I love Christmas. I did film a video sharing all of this, like just my Christmas VHS collection separate. It's pretty much the same. That might have a few added to it, but we have a lot of like cartoon specials, like I mentioned, like Rankin Bass. And then a lot of classic Christmas films, and yeah, I just love Christmas. So then we've got the drama section. So this section is pretty full, but there is still some room to grow, so that's good. I just put up these few movies up here on top because it was like Oscar season and they all won Oscars. I've actually never seen Good Will Hunting, and I've never seen the Bugsy movie either, but I do love American Beauty and Girl Interrupted. But now that I'm looking at the cover of the Bugsy one, I'm like, I should really watch that. And I've heard about Good Will Hunting. I just never got around to watching it, I guess. But here is the drama movies. We just watched this shipping news movie with Kevin Spacey in it, and it was so good. Kevin Spacey's character in this movie is so different than anything I've ever seen him in. It was very interesting. It made me realize like how good of an actor he is, I guess, but it was just interesting. So we have a bunch of. We also watched this Jambo DVD as well recently, and I'd never heard of this movie before, but it was quite good. It was different, but I do love Bryan Cranston. So. And then on the end of this, I just have some movies that are based on like real people here in this little like tiny section. This bookshelf is like an odd shape, but I usually try and keep the DVDs like closer to the top because it's easier to read DVDs when they're more at eye level than on the bottom, because at first I had them down on the bottom just to keep it more of the VHS look, but I decided to move them up higher just because it just wasn't convenient to have to like bend down and look at the ground basically to read the DVDs. So I grew up in a small town, like I mentioned, so we didn't actually have like a Blockbuster or anything. So I didn't really grow up going to Blockbuster. It wasn't until I was like an adult that like those are my memories of Blockbuster, being an adult. But we had a lot of just like small video stores, and that's what this actually reminds me of. So I put all of Quentin Tarantino's movies together there on the end, and then I just have this Bond set. It's actually empty though because I have the Bond movies all together in a different section. I just printed off this poster, and then down here I do have The Godfather. And then over on the first bookshelf we looked at, I have these Chevy Chase movies in the one section, and then in the other section I just have movies that take place during the 50s or 60s but were actually in like the 90s, or I think American Graffiti was in the 70s but takes place in the 60s. So then we are at the last bookcase here. So these bookcases, the bigger ones are just black. The black ones you can get from Walmart that are really cheap. I wouldn't say these are the most stable things to do this with because the backing that you're supposed to put on it does actually provide a lot of like stable structure. But by pushing them against the wall, and then the other bookcase is not really the way it's designed, it can't really tip over, so the weight of the second bookcase is actually holding it in place. But anyway, up top we have the Batman movies, and then this Batman book that we found thrifting a while ago. The Batman movies are the only like superhero type movie I've ever watched before, but I do like them, especially like the 90s ones. And then we have like the thriller section. So we've got a couple rows of thriller. In the town that I grew up in, a lot of times just the little convenience store, corner stores would rent movies, and that's what this reminds me of a lot, because they would just take a little section of the store and dedicate it to the movies, so they couldn't really front face movies. They would just be lined up this way. I think they would front face like the new releases on like a little section, but then everything else was just like that. Actually, this is way more movies than would have been available like in one of those stores, but that's mainly where we would go to rent movies. And then our town did have like a dedicated video store, but it wasn't like a chain or anything. So then we had thrillers that were more mystery and crime themed, and then we have westerns near the bottom here. We actually had way more westerns than I thought we did until I was organizing them, but my dad's a big fan of westerns, so I grew up watching a lot of westerns. This Hang 'em High movie is one of my favorite westerns. I've watched it a lot, along with Rio Bravo. This one is definitely one of my favorites as well, with John Wayne and Dean Martin. So good. And then right below that is like war themed movies, which I didn't realize we had as many of those as we did until I was setting it up, but they're kind of like down here near the bottom, against the fridge, so we don't really like reach for them that often, but they're there in their own section if we feel like watching a Western or a war-themed movie. So then on to the last shelf, the sci-fi section. Up here, we've got the Planet of the Apes movies. I think we're missing some of the newer ones maybe, but I did find this box set of the older films, which I love. They're some of my favorite old films. It's been a while since I've seen them too. And then I've got the Jurassic Park movies. John's favorite movie when he was a kid was Jurassic Park. And we just went and seen like the most recent Jurassic World movie. They had these popcorn buckets for sale. I think you just got it free if you got popcorn. And so John thought it would be a cool souvenir to have. And so I just put it up there and I think it looks cool. So then we've got not all of, but Star Wars movies. And like we've got Spaceballs up here, which is like the Star Wars spoof. And then I also have this DVD with the Ewok movies on it, which is still sealed. I actually just recently watched the Ewok movies, like for the first time since I was a kid. I was like, they're really bad. We also have this like R2-D2 DVD. We haven't watched it, but we found it a while ago. And then we also have this like bonus trilogy DVD, which I haven't watched either. So then we've got episode 1, 2, and 3. I'm pretty sure that they only released episode 3 on DVD. I haven't seen a VHS of it. And then we've got the original trilogy here. This is like, I believe it was 95, but it's basically, I think, the last time they released the movies before they did all those crazy like digital editing to them, which is in, I believe these were released in 97, this other like gold and black set that has the crazy digital, like horribly looking edits on it. I never watched them, but like I've seen them before, but I wouldn't choose to watch them, but I just thought it would be cool to have them, so we have them. When I watch them, I usually just watch those 1995 VHS. So then we have 2 more rows of sci-fi movies. And then we go into action adventure movies down here. And a lot of these movies I haven't seen, like aside from classic films, which is the ones I'm most familiar with. So when I was looking the movies up, that's how I would put them in a genre. So there might be movies you see that you think are in the wrong genre, and that could be. But most of the time when you look movies up, they'll have at least like 2 genres they could go in, so I just picked the one I thought was most fitting. But if you haven't seen a movie, then it's kind of hard to know exactly, so we just have it set up this way, and whatever, we can always change them if we feel like it's wrong. So here's an example. For some reason I didn't move these DVDs yet, but they're all on the bottom here. So then on this wall over here, we just have another one of those shelves. These shelves are holding up great. I will say, again, definitely if you get them, like they're perfect size-wise, but definitely use some super glue. But we just have the shelves on the bottom here. I have some cartoons that are like non-Disney cartoons. And then some like more family type films, I guess. You could say like Free Willy and Dark Crystal, stuff like that. And then some more like, I just call them fantasy films. So we've got some of those there, and then in the next shelf over, it continues on with like, you know, like movies like Willow and Labyrinth, I don't know, E.T. I guess they're kind of fantasy. I don't know. We just labeled them together like that. Like, to us, it means something, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And then above those movies is where we have all of the Bond films lined up. Most of the ones that we have are like MGM, but we do have a couple of the like CBS covers. So I think we have them all except for like maybe 1 or 2 of the newest ones, because we do have a few DVDs here. We've actually been like going through the Bond movies, but it's literally taking us years. I think we're almost to the 90s now, so. And then next to it, we just have this smaller shelf, and we have a bunch of like music VHS on here that we've been finding. And then above that, I just have some CDs. I just have Christmas CDs and then some Frank Sinatra CDs. Oh, we also have the big box MGM, the wall, which works out perfect because it can just fit on its side in there. And then John has been collecting some tapes recently, so he just has those at the very top. So above that shelf, I just have this other shelf here, and I've got this Turner Classic Movies book that John gave me for Christmas, and then this other 501 Movies book that we thrifted a while back. Under this little featured section, I just have some Easter movies, like Easter Parade, of course, the best. And then I just have some of these Beatrix Potter cartoons. I just thought, because Easter is coming up soon, I would just put those up there. But like at Christmas, I would put Christmas movies up there. And then we just have these little sections, because occasionally we'll just go through and see movies and think like, oh, I want to watch that movie soon, so we'll just put them in this section so that we remember. So John has a section, I have a section, and then in the middle here, I thought it'd be cool to just put like a certain actor and like all the movies that we have of that person if we wanted to try and watch them all. So right now we just have Leonardo DiCaprio films, and all the movies that I picked in my section were just movies I picked while I was like entering them into the Excel sheet, because I thought they looked interesting, like with the actors that were in them or the story, whatever. But I haven't watched any of them yet. On top of the like music shelf, I just have this little sign that I already had. And then these two little M&M cups we just thrifted. And then I also thrifted this, it's made out of like ceramic, little like camera. I thought, oh, that would be cool. And I just put up this little sign that I just printed from my computer. And then we just have kind of snacks here for movies, which I guess is a little more like theater vibe here. We usually try to watch a movie every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, because we're really busy like all the other time that we have. It doesn't happen every week, but I strive for that. Like it's a nice way to end the day on the weekend. But we just have a bunch of like random various candy and snacks here. And then we've got little like miniature bags of microwave popcorn, a bunch of popcorn seasoning. We got this like straw holder that I just had, so I put it there. And then we've got more just like microwave popcorn and more like snacks in these jars right there. And then down at the very bottom, we just have like extra drinks or something. And then over on the opposite side, we just have this desk with a laptop on it that I will enter the movies in on. And I do have one of those like VHS rewinders as well. When I worked at the thrift store, we actually had one come in that was like a car, but that's what it was. And I think that's the first time I had ever seen one. And I was like, what is this? But yeah, whenever I thrift new VHS, I'll just put them on this desk until I get a chance to like enter them into the Excel sheet. But we do have like a little mini fridge down here, and the microwave. I just put this little curtain up to like block it a little from like where we watch movies. I did a tour of this previously if you want a better look, but John has all of his like consoles and video games over here, and this is generally where we watch movies on the bigger TV. It's not a fancy TV at all. It's like probably 12 years old or something. It's not a smart TV. And then we do have like an older tube TV down here with a VCR hooked up to it, but it's like a really comfortable couch, and we just have a bunch of pillows and blankets, and it's just a very comfortable, relaxing place to watch movies. I will try to remember to link all of the videos that I have been mentioning in this video that I've already filmed. But anyway, that is it for my VHS collection tour, kind of video store vibes. I don't know, I can't explain like how happy it makes me. And John and I were just talking about this, like how different it is to like walk in and browse through movies and like be able to pick them up and read the back and look at the cover. I don't know why it's so different, like I said, than streaming, but it just feels so different. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again really soon.